So I'm gonna kind of use an exchange from the Old Testament to kind of illustrate a point about how it can be kind of strange sometimes. So just to set it up, this is the Exodus story. So we're right at the beginning of it. So the Jewish people have lived in Egypt for a very long time, and they're having a very large period of unrest because, Pharaoh's insisting that they throw their babies into the river, and he's enslaved them, and he's working them hard. This is like the third genocide they've been through this generation. So it's a pretty serious time. And then the Lord comes to a man like Moses, and I'm going to start reading at Exodus 3, starting at verse 7. Then the Lord told to him, also burning bush, I kind of assumed everyone kind of knew that he appeared to Moses as this bush that was burning and not consumed. And then the Lord said, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries of distress because of the harsh slave drivers. Yes, I'm aware of their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile, spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Pezerites, Hiverites, and Jebusites now live. Look, the cry of my people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abuse them. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people out of Egypt. And like a good Jewish person, Moses said, okay, let's go. Everyone that's laughing has already read this. But, I have a lot of empathy for Moses, too, because his life hadn't been easy. He was one of those babies that was thrown into the river. Luckily, his mother thought to put him in a basket, and he was picked up by one of Pharaoh's daughters and raised in the castle in luxury. But he still knew his mother. His mother ended up being his wet nurse by a fun roundabout there. And then he saw somebody beating up one of his countrymen, and so he killed him. And then he ran away. So this is a man who, was raised wealthy, ran away, and then went out and built a life as a shepherd out in the middle of nowhere. Probably was just getting some stability back. He has a wife now. All right, cool. I've got sheep. It's not as cool as living in the palace, but this is my life now. I'm pretty cool. And then he sees a burning bush, and God starts talking to him. So I think he responds very humanly in the next verse there. It's like, but Moses protested to God, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead my people out of Egypt? And I feel like that's a lot of the ways that we can feel sometimes when we hear from God. Our first instinct is to kind of, but me? You want, I'm still wanted for murder over there. You want me to go back? And I don't know if they actually, maybe Pharaoh forgot about it. It's been a little bit, but you want me to go back there, or you're putting this much faith in me, and but that's the thing, is that God doesn't really care where you came from. He doesn't care who your parents are. He doesn't care what your genes are disposed to. Pretty cool example that I found recently. This is why you should never skip over those genealogies, P.S., when you're reading your Bible. In Matthew 1:16, so this is right at the end of the genealogy. Matthew leaves in all the fun people, too. He mentions that that Bathsheba was the widow of Uriah and things like that. That's also in Jesus' but Jacob was the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. Mary gave birth to Jesus, who was called the Messiah. Anyone notice something there? Genetically, do you think Jesus is related to David? We don't know Mary's lineage. We know her sister was her sister and her brother-in-law were priests of the temple. We never hear Mary, and priests were usually from the tribe of Levi, and David's from the tribe of Judah. So, that being said, that brings forward, the next couple lines when we read in Matthew 1:18 to 21. This is how Jesus the Messiah was born. His mother Mary was engaged to marry Joseph. Before the marriage took place, while she was still a virgin, she became pregnant through the power of the Holy Spirit. Joseph, to whom she was engaged, was a righteous man and did not want to disgrace her publicly. He decided to break the engagement quietly. As he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. Joseph, son of David, the angel said, do not be afraid to take Mary for your wife, for the child within her has been conceived by the Holy Spirit, and she will have a son and name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. So, Joseph, he's an older man, at least traditionally. He is engaged to marry a younger woman, and then all of a sudden, she's pregnant. And he's like, all right, well, I guess I'm an old man. She found a younger man that she likes. So we'll just kind of just cancel it, and she can go marry this guy that she found. And, this stuff happens to him. And then he has a dream. Now, we say, the angel of the Lord came to him in a dream. But, has anyone else ever had a weird dream? I'm playing for the Boston Red Sox, or the nightmare where I'm playing for the Yankees. I don't run out of bed and go all right, sweet. I'm going to go pick up a bat and I'm going to go try out, because that's obviously where I need to go. Maybe I don't have enough faith, but that's not what I do. So he wakes up from this dream, and we read in Matthew, continuing in verse 24, when Joseph awoke, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded and took Mary as his wife. Jesus was adopted. Jesus is, I'm sure through God's power, he could, we can't obviously do any genetic tests on Jesus and compare it to David, but if it doesn't matter that there couldn't be absolutely no blood of David in Jesus, it's just that it was in the family, then that's the same for all of us, because we've all been adopted into God's family. We're all already part of this, and already inside this here. So, and just now, since I've gone on that tangent, we're going to go back to Moses. And further on in chapter 3 of Exodus, we read, God answered, I will be with you, and this is your sign that I am the one who sent you. When you have brought out the people of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain. But Moses protested again. If I go to the people of Israel and tell them, the God of your ancestors sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? And God answered, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said this to Moses. Say to the people of Israel, Yahweh, the God of our ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my eternal name, my name to remember for all generations. So that's how we get God's name for the first time. But how simple is it? Moses is still, but what if they don't believe me? And it's, who sent you? The I am. Okay. And sometimes those meanings are very simple and sometimes, but sometimes, obviously he had the burning bush and the speaking out of it, but I don't know, has anyone ever seen a burning bush like that described? Not just a bush on fire, a bush that's not being consumed by the fire that's surrounding it. No. And sometimes we can't hear what God's trying to say in that, because of all that noise. And this kind of reminded me of another. This is honestly one of my favorite passages, so I slip it in every time I can. But if we flip forward to 1 Kings 19 and 9 to 13, we have the story of Elijah. Now, Elijah's just done an amazing thing, but then everybody kind of turned against him, or at least one lady turned against him, so he felt like everyone turned against him, and so he ran off to the mountains to hide. And then he came to a cave where he spent the night. But the Lord said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Elijah replied, "I have zealously served the Lord Almighty, but the people of Israel have broken the covenant with you, torn down your altars, killed every one of your prophets. I am the only one left, and they are trying to kill me too. Go out and stand before the mountain," the Lord told him. So now he's standing before the mountain here. And Elijah and the Lord passed by. A mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that rocks were torn loose. We could say a terrible virus hit the United States. And it was so bad that 200 million people have perished. 200,000 people. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake. We could say, and after this, there was civil unrest, and there was people not being able to agree on anything, and calls of, calls that weren't able to be rectified with each other. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after that earthquake, there was a fire. Or we can insert whatever other stressor we can be feeling right now. But the Lord was not in the fire. After the fire, there was a sound of a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in a cloak and went out and stood before the entrance of the cave. And the voice says, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" So Elijah, all this noise, all this stuff, good thing to think about is that God, prior to this in the Bible, has talked through fire. He's talked through windstorms. He's talked through earthquakes. That's all happened before. But Elijah heard him when he was just speaking in that still small voice. And what was the first thing he said to him? Was the thing he said to him before. Right at the beginning, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" So it's kind of similar to how I see in Exodus with the I am. It's I am. In that God's I've already told you this, come on. And so, keep that in mind when we're listening for God's voice and things. Sometimes we just need to let the earthquake pass, let the windstorm rip rocks out, let the fire burn everything down. But ultimately what we're listening for is that still very small voice. Yeah. So then we go further back to Moses. I know I keep getting off the Moses thing. But Moses protested again. "What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say, the Lord never appeared to you?" And then God gives him a toolkit. He gives him several miracles that he can show just to kind of prove God's power. And we have the same thing, gifts of the Spirit. I'm not going to go into that because that'd be a whole other sermon. That's what God gives us if we're dealing with non-belief, is that we can work in the gifts and we can move through it. But, we don't need to, it doesn't need to be too complicated because God is with us, and that's what we heard before. And then even after all that, Moses again, chapter 4:10, Moses pleaded with the Lord, "Lord, I am not very good with words. I have never been nor and am not now. Even you have spoken to me. I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled. So it's, I'm not built for this. That's not, I'm not, I can't speak. I don't know the Bible. I've never spoken in front of people. I get anxiety. What if I don't know what to say? What if they ask a question that I'm not comfortable answering? What if? And then the Lord answers him. Lord asks Moses, who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether the person speaks or does not speak? Hear or do not hear? See or do not see? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will be with you as I speak, and I will instruct you in what to say. So, now I know, you might, yeah, sure, preacher man, you're up there with your microphone and all your scriptures, and you're much better at reading the Bible every day than I am, and whatever. I don't think I can do that. So, I'm going to go to a prophet. I'm just going to read about the revival that he was able to do. And then we'll talk a little bit about him. But the people of Nineveh believed God's message. From the greatest to the least, they declared a fast and put on burlap to show their sorrow. When the king of Nineveh heard what Jonah was saying, he stepped down from the throne and took off his royal robes. He dressed himself in burlap and sat in a heap of ashes. The king and his nobles sent a decree throughout the city. Now, no one, not even animals from herds and flocks, may eat or drink anything. People and animals alike must wear garments of mourning, and everyone must pray earnestly to God. They must turn from their evil ways and stop all their violence. So that's pretty cool. I've never seen a cow wear sackcloth and ashes, but they did it. I've also never seen being able to keep a cow from eating. They did it. Now that must have been an amazing sermon, right? Like sinners in the head of an angry God, like Jonathan Edwards, run up and down. Let's read it, in fact. On the day Jonah entered the city, he shouted into the crowds, 40 days from now, Nineveh will be destroyed. That's it. End of sermon. So Jonah, if you didn't read the book title name, but that's the prophet that we're talking about. And he's the reluctant prophet, it's called, because he heard that Nineveh was going to be destroyed. He's like, I see no problem with this, and went off to the other side of the world. But God was like, nope. So everyone knows the story of Jonah. He gets stuck in the whale belly for 3 days. He repents, and then he goes. He's still not happy about it. So he preaches, what is this? In this translation, it's 8 words. And he just shouts them into a crowd. I picture it almost like, they were all talking in the marketplace, and you just kind of goes, guys, 48 from now, Nineveh will be destroyed. And then walks away. It's like, I did it, God. I did the minimum requirement. That's what you told me to say. That's what I came. I said it. And then this happens, and we have cows and chickens and sackcloth and ashes. So, it doesn't take eloquence. It doesn't take candor. It just takes talking about it. It just takes, listening to that still small voice when it says, go talk to this person. Go give this person this, well, obviously we can't do handshakes right now, but go give this person a handshake. Go just talk about church. I've had one of my supervisors be like, you guys are having church? Sweet. Can I come? I'm still waiting for him to show up, but he was just really excited that we were having live church. You can just mention that, and who knows what other people, they might be really excited. And then, but then we get back to Moses too, in Moses 4:13. But Moses again pleaded, Lord, please send someone else. And this line, this resonates with me right now in 2020 a little bit, because I don't know. Has anyone else, like, with the with shutdown and like not being able to go places, it feels like your plate's fuller? Anyone else feel like that? Like, it's like we shouldn't be doing as much, but there's so much more to do, and so much, more stress, and so like we're like we mentioned with the Elijah, with we're still dealing with the metaphorical earthquake and fire and wind and all of that stuff, and then you hear that still small voice, and you look at God and go, "Can you please send someone else? I'm really tired. I don't want to do this. Like, I can't do this right now." And, sometimes God will. Like, for the example with this one, he sent his brother Aaron to help him. His brother Aaron could speak, but really didn't stand too well on his principles when the rubber hit the road. Read the rest of the story. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But, sometimes that'll happen, but more often it's just God's just waiting for us to say yes to him and waiting for us to act. It doesn't, it usually, like, he's not going to give us more than we can take. So we can just follow Matthew's example from chapter 9. And, as Jesus was walking along, a man named Matthew was sitting and collecting taxes in a booth. "Follow me and be my disciple," Jesus said. So Matthew got up and followed him. It doesn't take more than that sometimes. It just takes that right word at the right time. I'm gonna show my art love right now, but there's a painting that Caravaggio did. I'm not gonna show it because it wouldn't show up very well on the screen. If you look at it at home, you'll see why. But it's a painting of this, and Jesus is kind of off in the corner in the dark, and he's just kind of like pointing at Matthew. Matthew's going like, "Me?" And that's not what we read in Matthew 9. But I think that that's very human in the way that we all can look at it, because it's not always like we read this and we assume like Jesus showed up with a halo and like some special thing that we don't have, like flowing white robe or whatever. And he didn't. He was dirty. There's dust on his feet because it was dusty. He was, he was just a preacher. He had some followers, and he just looked over at a tax collector and said, "You, follow me, be my disciple." And it worked. And that's why I like that Caravaggio so much, is because Jesus isn't like, he has a halo because he had to, because Jesus, anytime he's depicted, has to have a halo, but it's very understated, and Jesus is in shadow. Like, it's just this another person off the street that is just calling to Matthew, and eventually he wrote the book. So maybe he did have that, and he just didn't want to say it because he wrote the book. So I guess just as I'm closing here, it's just would like to just say, like, understand that, like, even some of the greatest leaders in the Bible had times where they were overwhelmed, and when they were doubting, and when they were too worried to go on, and they really didn't want to do this today. Moses, I just got settled. I just got these sheep. Like, I just got a wife. Like, okay, I guess I'll go back to Egypt. And then he ends up leading all of his people out, and his name is remembered forever. And so it's just a matter of, we just got to make sure that we're listening for that still small voice, and that we follow it when we do hear it. Amen. Hallelujah.